Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast, a proud member of the Hockey Podcast Network and the official podcast of Left Wing Lock. I'm Devin Davidson, your host. With me, as always, Bruce Gunther. Hello. MIA tonight is Tyler Homan and John Enns. But we got a special guest tonight, Jonny Lazarus, joining us from the Blue Crew podcast and the Action Network. Is that correct, Johnny?
That is correct. Devin, Bruce, great to be here with you guys, and I appreciate you taking the time to have me on.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate you joining us. Tonight, episode 79, we're going to go through our part one of the Metro Division. We're going to cover the Penguins, the Capitals, the Rangers, and the Philadelphia Flyers, as much as that may pain us. Sorry, Mike. So, John, our buddy Mike McLaughlin from Left Wing Lock is a Flyers fan, and we like to poke fun at him every once in a while because they're
easy target.
They're not very good right now. Yeah. Before we get rolling, though, I should mention this episode is brought to you by Lucky Bastard Distillers. Opened in 2012 and inspired from a lottery win, Lucky Bastard Distillers is proud to be the first distillery to operate in Saskatoon since Prohibition, home of Canada's ultimate Caesar. Mix your drink tonight with Lucky Bastard. For our listeners, use promo code HockeyHacks to get 15% off your next online order. Shipping available across Canada. And for anyone that does like Caesars, they have dill pickle vodka, so that's always a favorite.
My wife is a big fan.
There you go. So thank you to them. Actually, and they sponsored our Hacks Holiday Contest. So, Johnny, we'll get into that a little bit later. For our listeners, if you're aware, just stick around because we're going to provide our promo code at the end of the show here. So, and with no further ado, let's talk about John's list. Bruce, since John's not here, I guess we could throw him on there, but that just seems too easy at this point. Maybe, you know what? I might go with this one. Let's go with Zach Aston Reese for choosing to sign in Toronto instead of Edmonton.
I didn't know he had a choice.
Or I guess a PTO. Well, Edmonton was interested, so I don't know if it was official, but just from an outsider's perspective, I guess I can't fault him for going to Toronto, except for it's Toronto. So, so we won't get too deep into that. Usually, Johnny, John's list, John usually has something for us. Tonight, he didn't even enter it in, so now we're totally flying by the seat of our pants.
Well, funny enough, I actually happened to train with Zach Aston Reese for 3 summers because he's from Staten Island, New York. I'm from Long Island, so we played for this. We played for the same junior team. So nice. I happened to work out with him, Kevin LeBanc, Charlie McAvoy, and some other big name guys. I mean, obviously, I didn't make it, but they did. But man, Zach Aston Reese, He is a really good player if he's put in the right opportunity. When I was a freshman, he was a senior at Northeastern, and he played on the best line in college hockey. It was him, Adam Gaudette, and Dylan Sakura, who was in Chicago for a little bit. I don't know where he is now, but Zach Aston Reese could be a difference maker, I think, in Toronto. He's just a heavy guy, tough as nails, can score. He reminds me a lot of John Tavares. They play a similar style. They're not the fastest or best skaters, but they're in the right areas, and they get shit done. I don't know if I curse on here. Sorry.
You absolutely can. You go for it.
Yeah, they just get shit done. They're in the right place at the right time, and they're strong on their skates. So I think Toronto could use a guy like him that's honestly had playoff experience with the Penguins too. So obviously a non-big name signing, but someone that can make a difference.
Yeah, and I should clarify, the reason he's on the list tonight is because I wanted him in Edmonton. He is a difference maker in my opinion. Yeah, so that's why I'm kind of giving him the gears about it. I would have loved to have seen him in an Oilers jersey, but not meant to be. I can't blame him. I mean, Toronto's going to be good this year.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but it's the same ending every year, so.
Yes, very much so. All right, we'll move on to headlines with the Hacks here. Bruce, there's really not much. Well, I guess there's a couple points here now. You were busy this morning, I guess.
Yeah, I put a couple of things in here. I put one in there for Mike because I was really scraping the bottom of the barrel for something to put in here for today.
All right, so headlines from September 5th to the 12th. Bruce, take it away.
All right, so first news item came this morning courtesy of the Montreal Canadiens. They named Nick Suzuki as their 31st captain. He is also the youngest captain in Canadiens history at 23.
Wow.
Solid pick, I think. Johnny, any thoughts on Suzuki?
I think he's a great player, and I didn't realize he was only 23. It feels like he's been around for a little bit longer, I guess. What's it been this is probably his 5th season already in the league, or 4th maybe?
Yeah. Not long.
Not long, but it feels like he's been around for a long time. I don't know much about him, honestly, as a person, but I'm sure it's a great fit. I think it's a little of a weird time for Montreal, right? Because they went to the Stanley Cup final, and they had the worst year in their franchise history, it seemed, last year. So, a lot of pressure, I would say, on him. But then again, the captaincy and just a letter on your shoulder. Of course, it's a huge honor for players, but it doesn't. Fans, I think, get a little carried away with the expectations sometimes. Like, he's still going to be the same guy. Like, you shouldn't expect much different from what he's already done. It's just like a little added hype around him.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility, and the expectations are high in Montreal regardless of where that team is in their performance. But it's going to be his 4th season coming up here, for the record.
4th, okay.
Yeah. What else you got for us, Bruce?
Evan Rodriguez signed a 1-year, $2 million deal with the Colorado Avalanche. Not sure if he's going to be fantasy relevant, but if he can kind of pick up where he left off last year with the Penguins, he might be able to scrape in at the end. He was doing well, and then about mid-season he seemed to drop off a cliff. But, and depends where he ends up in the lineup.
Yeah, I could get some top 6 time, I think, depending on how things shake out there. They're definitely not quite as deep as they were last season.
At center depth, they're not really set, right?
Yeah.
Right now, he's listed as the 3rd line left winger from what I'm seeing.
There you go.
But he was money last year for that 15 game stretch. What he finished with? Did he have 20 goals?
I'll look that up for you quickly.
Do we know that? Yeah, I want to know what he finished with. I know he had there was a span where he scored 10 in 15 games or something like that, something crazy.
19 goals.
19 goals.
Yeah.
19 goals. I knew it was close.
Yeah, because he was playing with Crosby and Gensel, was he not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was on fire.
Yeah, I mean that's a nice ad for them, for the Avalanche. It's just a player that can kind of move up and down the lineup when he's needed, and if given the right opportunity, he can produce, right?
Most definitely.
Power play guy too.
Yep.
For sure. The last one I put in for Mike, Sean Couturier has been medically cleared and will be a full participant in training camp. So he only played 29 games last year due to injury, and he hasn't played since December 18th of 2021.
Wow.
Might have to shake off some rust, Bruce?
Maybe a little bit. From what it sounds like, he's going to have to do it pretty fast because it sounds like Tort's coming in hot in camp. So
That's what everyone says, right? Every player that's ever played for Torts said his training camps are the hardest ones ever. I'd be terrified. Training camp sucks.
Well, and what did you say, Bruce, about you had some concerns too?
Yeah, it basically was written, said if you're not ready to go on day one, you'll get left behind, and if you get left behind, don't bother coming back.
Torts said that?
No, it was one of the beat writers, I think. Wrote
Oh.
It's they're going to come in fast and hard, and if you're not ready to go, you're going to get left behind.
Okay. Well, there you have it. That's headlines for the week. Not much to talk about. I mean, we're so close to training camp and stuff. I mean, there's not a lot to report on usually at this point, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think rookie camps get underway this week, right? Rookie camps
just started, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, by next week, our next episode, we should have some more to talk about, but pretty quiet this week. So with that, let's move on to our 2022 Metro Division Fantasy Hockey Preview, starting with the Rangers. Johnny, I'm just going to spit out some numbers here. Like I mentioned earlier, we'll talk about the team. I'll ask you your opinion. Did they get better, worse, or really no different in the offseason? And then we'll get into some player predictions. I'll ask you to give me or agree with the over or the under on some of these projections we've got.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so first up, the Rangers, 52, 24, and 6. They were second in the Metro. Goals for 3.05. They're 17th in the league. 2.49 goals against was second overall. No surprise given Shesterkin was in goal. Goals for percentage, 55%. Corsi for 47. Power play was fourth in the league at 25.2% and seventh on the penalty kill at 82.3. The Rangers have got 16 back-to-back sets this season, tied for the most with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and 41% of their games are played on light days. That's games or days where fewer than 50% of the teams are in action. Some key additions in the offseason: Vincent Trocheck from Carolina, Yaroslav Halak from Vancouver, and Louis Domingue from Pittsburgh. Leaving in the offseason was Andrew Kopp, Frank Vetrano, Justin Braun, Ryan Strome, Keith Kincaid, and Alexander Gorgiev. Based on those numbers and some of the additions and departures, Johnny, did that team get better, worse, or no different this year?
So I've been talking about this all summer, and my opinion has changed. I've gone back and forth, and I know this probably isn't the answer that you'd want to hear, but I don't think they got better, but I also don't think they got worse. And I know that doesn't really make any sense, but when you kind of let me elaborate on it for a second, it does, because listen, they're going to have these guys that are given more opportunity than more than they've ever had in their careers, right? Alexis Lafreniere, Capo Caco, first overall pick, second overall pick. Vincent Trocheck, obviously, he's been a solidified second-line center, power play guy. He's going to have a bigger responsibility this year than he's probably ever had before because he's coming to a team that made the conference final, and I know he played a pretty strong role in his previous teams, but nothing like the pressure of New York. And I think he kind of knows that, and I think he's filling in for Ryan Strome. So if he's not up to par with what Ryan Strome did in New York, like, fans aren't going to love him, and they're going to let him know. Like, he's coming in, and Ryan Strome wasn't even that incredible, but he was, a guy that was here for 5 years, a great locker room guy, a guy that got along with Panarin, and he was there for Panarin, and Panarin has been an MVP candidate, I think, in every year he's been here. So Trocheck definitely comes in with a ton of pressure, but then again, like, when you look at the departures, these guys, like, before they got to the Rangers, they weren't huge names in the league. Like, Andrew Kopp was, a strong two-way forward. He wasn't really a goal scorer, but he overperformed and exceeded expectations in New York. Frank Vatrano was a third-line player. He played on the first line, and, he is a goal scorer, sure, but he never produced like that anywhere else he's been. Justin Braun, just kind of a solidified veteran defenseman, and then, obviously Kincaid and Georgiev, you can kind of say whatever you want about them. Like, Kincaid got a couple games, I think 2 years ago, and Georgiev was, not his best this year, but, he played well when needed, I think, in the playoffs. But I think it's hard to look on paper right now and say they got better or worse because you just don't know yet with the young kids and what they're capable of. Obviously, we saw that kid line together in the playoffs. I don't think they'll be together this season, at least to start it, because you got to give Lafreniere the first-line minutes. You might have to give Kakko some second-line minutes in power play, but this Kravtsov kid coming in from the KHL, too, is a stud and super skilled and could click with Panarin. I want to see him in the second line with Panarin. But yeah, I think it's really hard to tell right now. And, whenever you have a Norris Trophy winning defenseman on the blue line and a Vezina winning trophy goalie in net, it's like, how could you think they're going to get any worse,
They've got some really, really key pieces, right? And that hasn't changed, like you had just said. So I like Trocheck this year, playing next to Panarin. I think, like, has he really played with a better winger than Panarin? Like, there's been guys who've been close, maybe in Florida, right? But, I like this for Trocheck. I don't think, can we really expect much better, though, from Shesterkin? Like, he had a pretty incredible year last year.
Yeah, if you expect better from him, I don't know what sport you're watching. It was the best performance I've ever seen in my life from a goalie, like, ever.
So I guess I'll just throw this out to you then. Is he now the number one goaltender in the league, or is that just that's overhyped?
I mean, he could be, I think, at some point, but, like, if you had to ask me, like, obviously I'd take him, up there with Vasilevsky right now, but I think he still has to prove a lot to get to Vasilevsky's level. I mean, you can't knock what that guy's done. He's incredible.
Yeah, and I think the team, too, you still have to give the team advantage to Vasilevsky at this point.
Of course. I mean, the Rangers' defense was not very good last year. I think they were like 24th in high-danger chances against.
There you go. Yeah, and possession numbers, too. Again, 24th in the league. So,
yeah.
So some things, I mean, really, I think, well, let's just jump to Shesterkin here really quickly. His goals saved above expected was just a shade under 40. So that tells you, like, despite some pretty pedestrian possession numbers, Shesterkin really saved their bacon, and I don't think this team would have been really half as good without him in the net, right?
And I think the guy behind him in second, was it not Freddie Anderson with like 32? Right?
Yeah.
Was it something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in Carolina, they're studs in terms of possession, right? They've been that way for a few years now.
But he was just so far and beyond, like, the next best goalie in the league.
Yeah.
Like, there was no argument.
Yeah. No, Shesterkin was a clear-cut winner for sure. Okay, so last season, 35, 13, and 4. A 207 goals against average, pretty incredible. 935 save percentage. I've got him pegged here for 65 starts next season. I don't really think that's a stretch, but not many goalies start 60-plus games anymore either. So, Johnny, and 36 wins. So, would you take the over or under on those numbers?
Not on the starts. I would not take the over-under on the starts, simply because his workload this year, especially when it got to playoff time, they played 20 games in 40 days. And, to win a Stanley Cup, the Rangers aren't going to beat teams in 4 or 5 games in a series. So they're going to have to imagine that he's going to have to put up, those kind of performances again if they're going to go far in the playoffs. So I would say more in the 52 to 55 games played range, which still, like, isn't that far off. 60 just sounds like a lot for some reason. I don't know why. Like, when I heard 60, I was like, man, that is a workload. But also, you got to think of who they just signed too, right? Yaroslav Halak is pretty solid. He was a starting goalie for a long time in the league, and Domingue played pretty well in the playoffs. He did fall apart a little bit toward the end of the series, but He's more than capable. And, I think they understand now, like, what Igor can do to his body in a playoff run. Not that he was bad in the playoffs, but, like, that Penguin series, there was definitely some concern in the first couple of games. So I think they might, stick to, like, a 50 to 55 game starting range. But what was the wins you said? How many wins?
36.
I honestly love that number. I think 36. I think it's a fair number.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you say that, like, considering who they signed this offseason in terms of goal, like Halak, like you said, capable backup. Domingue, same thing. Mm-hmm. They should rest him a bit more, and that makes a lot of sense. So I would agree with that assessment. Yeah, I'd probably go a little bit lighter too. Bruce, you're probably thinking the same thing.
No, I'm actually thinking the other way because
really 60 start him 65 games.
Well, you look at the way Halak played in Vancouver. You might as well have just put a sheet of plywood in there instead. He wasn't good in Vancouver, so his starts. So at 65, if Halak and Domingue can't stop a puck, those numbers are going to go up, and he'll hit 40 wins.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think anyway.
Hot take from Bruce. I love it.
Well, I think also to your guys' point before, you got to mix in those 16 back-to-backs, right? Like that's already that's probably 8 starts already right there for a backup, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, most in the league, right? So I mean,
if the backups don't play well, that might be the only 8 starts.
Well, Georgiev never really played well. He was terrible. He was horrible.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't be surprised if he hit 40 wins.
Back to your point about Halak, though, Bruce, I actually have higher hopes for Halak this year. I think, like, there were some goalies we saw go through Vancouver over the past couple of years that didn't perform well. Halak was one of them. Markstrom's another. Like, so you look at Markstrom, you look at Halak, you look at Holtby, because Holtby went to Dallas, and he actually played quite well. I think he had a .916 save percentage the following season. So, I mean, I think it's more of a team issue over in Vancouver because, I mean, Demko has stood on his head a few times, right? And so, I think Halak will be better this offseason or this season.
Halak is going from a team that had a suspect defense to a team that has a suspect defense. So
that is a valid point, Bruce.
They also had a coach firing though this year too. There was some stuff going on in the beginning of that season,
That is true. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
That's okay, Bruce. So when come draft time, you're going to totally ignore Halak, and I might, or even on the waiver wire, you're not going to touch him. He'll be sitting there for me to stream. So that's great.
There's a reason why Shesterkin's one of my keepers for this year.
Yeah, there you go.
Can't blame there.
Let's talk about some forwards here. So Mika Zibanejad, right now his Yahoo ADP is 29.3. Last season, 81 points, 29 goals in 81 games played. 2.7 shots on goal was his lowest since 2016, 2017. But he had career highs in his power play points at 28 and his percentage of power play at 71.7. So I've got him pegged here for 32 goals and 82 points. Johnny, does that sound about right to you, or am I out to lunch?
No, I think that sounds pretty on the spot. I mean, I think he's become a top 10 center in the league, and his one-timer is the number 1 look on that power play, and that power play was ranked 4th this year. So, he'll be the biggest threat on the top 5 power play in the league. And he's a player though. Like we actually, obviously I'm a Rangers fan, and look for him around the time March. Everyone, this thing has become a Mika March. It's been like the last 2-3 years. He put up those 6 goals or 9 points maybe against the Flyers or something in like 2 games.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I honestly, why am I forgetting that? I don't remember the exact number, but he tore up the Flyers 2 years ago, and then he had another strong March too. He's just become very streaky. When he's hot, there's no one hotter. I mean, you saw him, in games 5, 6, 7 of the Penguin series, he was unstoppable. And once he gets going, he's really just hard to shut down, and he's an all-around player. So I think 32 goals is definitely, the right benchmark. 52 assists is where I'm like, but I guess, when he's playing with Kreider, like, you never know. So, no, I like that projection a lot.
Okay. Bruce, what do you think?
I like it too. I think point per game is right where he needs to be.
How badly do the Ottawa Senators want that trade back?
Oh my God, that's terrible.
No kidding.
Well, when it first happened, we loved Brassard, so everyone was like, "What? Why'd they do that?" So it's funny to see how that panned out because Mika's been incredible for the Rangers since he's been here.
He's just got better every year.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently a hell of a DJ too.
Yeah, that's what everyone says, and a head of a hair.
Yeah, he's got the flow too, for sure. All right, let's talk about Panarin. We were just chatting about him earlier, him and Kravtsov and maybe Trocheck on a line together. Panarin's going at an average of 24 overall in drafts right now. 96 points last year, 22 goals, and 75 games played. That was a 105-point pace for him. 37 power play points and just about 73% power play share were career highs. 12.4 was his shooting percentage. That was his lowest since 2017, 2018. So I don't know if we're going to get the same, 37 power play points it's quite a bit. I don't know if we'll see 37 power play points from him again this year, but I do expect a bit of an uptick in goals. So I've got him for 30 goals and 100 points if he plays 82 games. Johnny, what do you think?
I think the goals might be a little too high. I've watched him play a lot over the last couple of years, and he's really not a shoot-first guy. Obviously he can pick his spots. Is his shot, a huge threat? Not necessarily. I mean, his one-timer is solid, but his, just genuine wrist shot and snapshot is not something that I think is a huge weapon. And obviously when he's playing with other skilled guys, especially on that first power play unit like we talked about, he's going to be more pass first. So I think the goals might be, again, in that 20 to 25 range. I'll be very surprised if he scores 30. But then again, the assists, he's a pass first guy. He could put up 60 assists easily. So, I think that 90, 95 point range is somewhere I would feel comfortable, maybe betting on or giving a projection. Yep. But, I'm not going to knock it. That 100-point pace, if anyone can do it, it's him. I mean, he's been incredible, and, he's got a lot of talent around him. So I'm not going to say it's not possible, but I would definitely lean more toward that, 90, 95.
Okay, totally fair. Yeah, I'm kind of banking on his shooting percentage, taking a bit of an uptick here, but we'll see. Bruce, what's your take on Panarin?
Pretty much exactly the same as Johnny. I was thinking 90 to 95 points. So,
okay. Love that, Bruce.
Chris Kreider. Let's talk about Chris Kreider. Had a hell of a season last year. 52 goals, absolutely shattered his previous career best of 28 goals. And his 35 power play points obliterated his previous career high of 14. So obviously a career year from him. I think there's some regression coming. He shot over 20% last year, and 3.2 shots on goal per game was also a career high. 77 points in 81 games played. I've got him coming down a bit, 35 goals and 67 points. That might be an overcorrection, but Johnny, what do you think?
He's really tough. Because think about it, before last season, a lot of Ranger fans were kind of on him about underperforming, and then he explodes like this. And I think a lot of it does have to do, with the power play. Obviously, most of his goals and points came on the power play, and you don't really see units regress like that, right? The only thing is right now, and a big topic of discussion is who's going to fit in on that fifth spot on the first power play unit, because Ryan Strome was that guy. But I don't think that takes away from what Kreider is going to do, because Kreider was a huge net front presence. He scored so many goals, on deflections that were 5 feet away from the net. I've never seen anything like it. It was literal art, what he was able to do. But I still think he can score 40. Do I want that to be the expectation? No. So I would say he goes north of 35. I would put him in the 38 to 40 goals.
Okay.
And he's not much of a pass first guy. He is a shot first mentality. So I don't see him getting many assists. But what'd you have him at? 77 points.
I'm good at 67 points.
67 points.
Yeah. Because you're right. He doesn't pass a whole lot, right?
No, he does not. I would.
And for the record, his 3-year average is 65 points.
Mm-hmm. If I'm saying 38 to 40 goals, 65 points sounds right. I'm going to say 63 to 65 points. Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Bruce, I'm assuming you don't have a whole lot to add to that.
I think he's going to creep over 70, just over 70 for the season.
Okay. I can see it. Again, there's lots of talent there. There's no reason he couldn't, especially if the power play continues to tear it up. So.
Oh yeah, they can maintain their power play. It was 4th last year, so even if they can stay in the top 10, right? That's a huge boost for the team. Huge.
Yeah. Okay, Vincent Trocheck, just speaking about the power play, Johnny, this is the guy I think is going to take Strome's spot on PP1. I don't see a reason for him not to be there. He's performed there in the past. If all goes well, maybe he has another 60-point season. That's kind of where I see him producing and 25 goals. Last year he was on a 52-point pace. He had 21 goals. 53.7 IPP was a career low for him. I think we're going to see a bump in time on ice. He's going to get, like I said, power play 1 duties. Playing with Panarin, I think he'll get more ice time than you saw in Carolina. Mm-hmm. Yep, PK, right? Like, so lots of things there. One thing that is concerning, he had 2.1 shots on goal per game last season. That was his lowest since 2013, 2014. He typically has been a guy with a higher shot volume and he hits too, right? So now even his hitting, I think, has trailed off a little bit here in the past couple seasons, but kind of a nice category coverage guy for fantasy purposes anyway. But 25 goals, 60 points. What do you think?
So I do want to disagree with you on the power play thing. I think Trocheck's been a solidified net front guy on every power play unit he's been on.
Valid point.
And but listen, everyone, literally everyone on Rangers Twitter is like, Trocheck's filling in for Strome. He's going to win the faceoffs. He's a good faceoff guy, which he is. But when you have Kreider there already, like, why not put Trocheck on the second unit and give a guy like Kakko that more ice time on because right now the 5th spot in that first unit is basically just a bumper guy and he's just a distraction and he's not going to be a huge option for goal scoring, for touches, kind of just there to win, battles on the boards and get the puck back for your power play unit, right? Like that's kind of what the bumper guy is for, just to be that like little diversion. So I think Trocheck is just more valuable on the second unit. Like that's my own opinion. Like, I could be way off on this and he could end up, playing the first unit, but I've been saying all year, like I really want to see like a Kakko or a Hedl play that 5th spot on the first unit just to give those guys some more ice time. And then you have Trocheck net front on the second unit and you have, him being in his natural position where he could kind of make more of a difference. And you already have a guy like Mika Zibanejad that can win a face-off on the first unit and Kreider that can win a face-off on the first unit. So I would love to see him on that second unit. But then again, to your point, I think he will have a better year this year offensively because he's playing with a guy like Panarin who he's never played with before. So, I really do think like he should have an uptick in points, uptick in production. But it's just really like where he fits in, right away. Because it is like obviously he's right now solidified second line center, like up in the air on where he is in the power play. Definitely going to kill penalties, and Gallant loves him. So his opportunity will come. It's just what he does with it. But I think 25 goals might be. I think he may be at 20. Okay, 20 goals.
That's fair. I'm just a Trocheck fan, so that's like I'm for sure optimistic on that outlook. But yeah. No, and there's a lot of logic in what you're saying. I forgot totally about Kreider being net front presence, and that makes a big difference here. So, and actually too, just to boost up Kakko's confidence, like they got to get him going, right? If they can get Kakko and Lafreniere going, that's going to make a huge difference for this team.
I've been saying it, like that's been my biggest argument, I guess, all summer long is like obviously going into the offseason, Kakko scratched in Game 6, probably not feeling the most confident, and everyone wants him to get more ice time because he's second overall pick. But he shouldn't really be playing with Panarin and Trocheck because he's just not fast enough right now. Like Kravtsov should be there, and he should be on the third line with Hedl, a guy he was comfortable with in the offseason, the kid line, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But if you want to give him some more confidence, throw him on PP1 where he can be a bumper guy and maybe be a net. Like he's a strong kid. Like he can easily win those battles, and he did it. I think 2 seasons ago he filled in every now and then. So put him there.
I like it. Bruce, Trocheck, any thoughts?
Well, I like where you got him at.
Okay. And then we'd mentioned Lafreniere, 163 is his ADP right now in Yahoo. 31 points last year, 19 goals in 79 games played. I mean, a 32-point pace is really, really underwhelming for a player that went first overall not that long ago, right? High expectations for this kid. He had 108 hits last year. That was a career high for him. Low volume shooter. He had just 1.4 shots on goal last season. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag. I do see him having a better year. So I've got him at 23 goals and 45 points. Johnny, what do you think?
I love that. I also think for him, his biggest struggle will be playing the off wing because I don't think he's done that before in his career. And right now he's slotted as that first line right winger with Kreider and Zibanejad, which he had a couple of games with them last year, and he should feel pretty confident. I mean, he was great in the postseason. He had a really strong finish to the regular season, and those 19 goals that you mentioned, they were all even strength, which was I think amongst the top of the league for even strength goals. So he should feel pretty good. And it's funny. I was actually I don't know why I did it, but I like chimed in on a Twitter debate that I saw the other day with like just about somewhat of like trolls, but I was like, you know what, I love Lafreniere and I want to defend him, so I'm gonna jump in. Like, he's honestly become like my favorite player, I think, on the Rangers. I just love everything about him, his personality, the way he goes about his body language, the way he goes about the game. Like, he just does everything. I've never seen it really from a first overall pick, a guy that like will bang the body and just do all the little things. It's really impressive from a young, French Canadian kid that has a ton of skill too, right? Like, he'll go through the legs and backhand back like top shelf, like he'll do it all. But where was I getting at with that point? What was I talking about?
the Twitter debate. So yeah.
Well, so I saw a bunch of Devil fans arguing, a bunch of Ranger fans arguing, who would you rather have right now, Jack Hughes or Lafreniere? And the situations are so different because Hughes is, he's obviously, I would say, a much better overall player right now than Lafreniere is, but what he went into was a team that wasn't even close to making the playoffs. Like, he was kind of a franchise savior, whereas Lafreniere, like, the Rangers kind of get a little lucky with that lottery pick, right? Like, come on,
totally.
Like, we'll take it. But like, it's all about opportunity, and I think Lafreniere for the first time in these 3 seasons will get all that opportunity this year. So like, it's hard to really argue right now on who you'd rather have. I mean, Jack Hughes is unbelievable. I love his game. I love watching him also, but there's no reason why Lafreniere can't be that same player. I mean, he's not as fast as a skater as Hughes is, but like, he's 20 years old. Like, come on, like, he's gonna get there. So I think 23 goals is like dead on. I think he'll at least hit the 20 mark. Like, that should be an expectation. Yeah. And 45 points, I think, is fair too. It all depends again on if he gets power play time or not too.
Totally.
Sorry for going a little on with these things. I'm just very passionate.
No, I love it. That's good. That's good. Because we're gonna breeze through the Flyers when we get there too. So
yeah, I got nothing on them. just skip over me for that one.
Oh man, what was I gonna say? I mean, there's a lot of hype around Jack Hughes right now. Like, I can totally see that conversation taking place because everyone thinks that guy's gonna get 100 points this year, and I don't know. I think the expectations for Jack Hughes are too high right now, but he's gonna have a good season. He's a good player, but I mean. Anyway, let's talk about Adam Fox. ADP 17.4. That's a little rich for my blood. 74 points last season, 11 goals in 78 games played, 7% individual shot percentage, Bruce, 2 shots on goal per game. Those are both career highs for him, actually. 33 power play points and 70.7% power play share. Again, career highs for him. I love Adam Fox. I just think in terms of fantasy hockey, 17th overall is a little bit high. We had this debate, or not even a debate, a conversation last week talking about defensemen you would take in the first couple rounds, and for me it's Makar, it's Yossi, and it's Hedman in terms of fantasy defensemen, and then I would take Fox probably 4th. So 17 seems a bit rich, but 11 goals, 70 points. Johnny, what do you think? And then in terms of taking him at 17th overall,
can I ask why Hedman ahead of him for fantasy purposes?
Just the team situation I like a little bit more. I know the power play is shown it was probably better. It was better than Tampa's last year. But, I mean, Hedman had, what was it, 19 goals and 85 points last year? I still like Hedman a little bit more. But it's so close, right? That I think, honestly, if you took either player, it's probably a wash. But I do like Hedman just a bit more right now.
So, with Foxy, his thing is just like, man, the play just starts with him. Every single offensive rush the Rangers get, every clean breakout they get, I mean, obviously not every one when he's not on the ice, but like, you know what I'm saying? I actually, I think, and this could be like a hot take, or I don't think it is, but I think the Rangers offense somewhat flows through him. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily see it that way because he's not the flashiest and he doesn't necessarily like stand out with his speed or his strength, but he just makes the right decision like 99% of the time and gets the play going, keeps the play alive. Like the way he is in the blue line, like then he doesn't skate the blue line like Yossi or Makar do, but he's able to keep pucks in, and like his head fakes are just ridiculous. The way he just gets these wingers to bite at him and just like hesitate for like half a second to get the shot through. I mean, I don't know if there's many defensemen that get pucks on net more accurately than he does, if that makes sense. Like it's not the hardest shot, but it just gets through. And I think that's an advantage that he might have over, you know, I mean, listen, like you can't say he has an advantage over Makar. I know both of them. I played with both of them. So like a lot of people do compare them, and they're just completely different players. Like Cale Makar would put up 70 points in the Buffalo Sabres. Would Adam Fox? Probably not. Like
right.
Cale creates his own opportunity, but Adam makes everyone around him better. Like that's the difference with the two of them. Like Cale can do it on his own. Adam, if he's around unbelievable players, like he makes them that much better. Like, so I think that's like, maybe it's biased, but I think that's why I'd put him over Hedman, just because he just like runs that offense runs through him. Like,
yeah.
I can't really say it any other way.
That's totally fair. And actually, I was on a podcast last offseason, and I was talking about how I'd take Fox over Hedman. So I mean, my opinion, you know, it was like I kind of flip flopped a bit, but I think they're really close, both players. They're both phenomenal defensemen, and you can't go wrong either way, in my opinion. But and Makar though, so where did you play with Makar? I'm curious. Oh, nice.
UMass.
That's
played
cool.
My sophomore year, his freshman year at UMass.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Good Alberta boy, right?
Yep. One of the best, man. Just a pro on and off the ice. Like he really is just unbelievable guy.
Yeah, he's been, well, Bruce is the president of that fan club. We joke all the time. But how can he not be?
Yeah. He threw some shade at Alberta, I think, this year, didn't he? Or with the cup or whatever? Didn't he like bring the cup there?
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Last guy here for the Rangers, Jacob Trouba. So 107.3 right now in Yahoo. 39 points, 11 goals in 81 games played last year. 207 hits, so he's 2.5 hits per game. That was a career high for him, and 177 blocks. So in multi-category coverage leagues, Trouba's a nice pick there. And I think he's maybe a little bit underrated in terms of offense. Like he's in and around 40 points, it seems to be every year, and double-digit goals is not a stretch for him either.
Mm-hmm. The $8 million man.
Yeah, maybe you don't like that price point so much, but I mean...
listen. Honestly, if I can go back, I wouldn't change it. Like he was brought in to basically do what Fox has done. You know, I think that's kind of taken a little bit of pressure off him offensively. Like no one could have really imagined Adam Fox would, you know, make this much of an impact as early as he did. So I think, you know, obviously there are a lot of Ranger fans who don't love that, you know, that number of $8 million, but like he's the captain now, and he's, you know, a guy that almost everyone fears playing against. So. You know, are the offensive numbers going to be as expected? Maybe not. Because I honestly think he was running the second power play unit also throughout most of the year. But with the emergence of Keandre Miller this past season, and Zach Jones is also capable of playing the blue line a little bit on the power play, I don't think Trouba's power play opportunity will be there as much as it has been in the past. So there might be a little drop off there. But you know, I'd probably say do you have it at?
I've got him 9 goals and 39 points.
Yeah, I would say I'm going to say 7 goals and 35 points.
Okay, so not too far.
But
off.
No, the exact ballpark.
Yeah. Okay, Bruce, any thoughts on Trouba?
I think he's just gonna slightly tick over 40. And how many knockouts is he gonna have this year?
Yeah, right. I'll have more knockouts than goals. That's for sure.
We'll put the over under at 4.
Yeah,
more knockouts than goals.
Mm-hmm. I'd bet that.
And there's some heavy hits.
He's a nasty piece of business, honestly. What was your thoughts on him as the captain, Johnny?
So it's interesting because this time last year, I think he was the obvious choice. And then with the way Kreider handled himself with the media, the year he had, and just the homegrown Ranger that everyone kind of loves, it was like almost it seemed automatic that he would be the captain. So I think it was more of a surprise when that news first came out. But then as the day went on, it just made sense, you know?
Sure, yeah.
But when it's funny because some media members always said Kreider almost preferred to talk to media after they lost and after they won, so he could hold himself accountable, hold the team accountable, and kind of be that role. Yeah. But you throw a C on Trouba's chest, doesn't change anything. He's still going to be that guy. Trouba's still going to be the same he is. Yep. Barclay Goodrow's still going to be a leader with the A on his jersey. Mika's going to be a leader too. Panarin also. That's why I think I said it early on about Suzuki. The C doesn't really change that much. Nope. It just. Everyone in the room already knows who that guy is. The C is just for the public knowledge to know who the leader is, right? You're not, because no one's in the room. So, yeah. I'm happy with it, and I think it was the right choice from everything I've heard.
All right. Let's move on to the Philadelphia Flyers then, as much as it may pain us.
And now to the Penguins.
25, 46, and 11. They're 8th in the Metro last year. Really, all their metrics were pretty bad here. 31st in goals for, 27th in goals against. Goals for percentage was 41%, was 30th. Corsi for was 26th at 47%. Special teams were awful. 12.6% of the power play was dead last in the league, and 75.7 was 26th. So some pretty ugly numbers there from them. They've got 15 back-to-back sets this season. That's tied for the second most with the Islanders and the Penguins. 30% of the games are played on light days. Key additions, they signed Nick Delorier and Tony D'Angelo, and leaving was Martin Jones. So, Johnny, did they get better, worse, or really no different this year?
So it's the attitude that's going to be different, right? Just the guy behind the bench, I think, makes them better than they were. Everyone, for some reason, just gets up to play for John Tortorella. Yep. And, you know, do I think they're going to be good? Like, no. I mean, it's really their special teams, too, last year. Like, well, the 32nd best power play, they're 12.6% of the power play. Like, come on. That's atrocious. And then their PK was 26th. What's up?
Didn't Mike say that they were worse on the power play than they were at 5-on-5 last year?
Probably
something to that effect. Yeah.
Like it was they were actually worse on the power play. It was
which is nuts because they have good players and honestly, like, I don't know if you guys remember this far back, but prior to the bubble, like when COVID happened, the Flyers were like on a roll. They were like going to win the Eastern Conference. Like they were money. Carter Hart was playing well. Their whole entire team was just buzzing, and I don't know what went wrong for them. Maybe COVID just ruined the Flyers. I don't know, but it's gonna. Right? It's definitely seen that way. Even the bubble. Yeah, the Islanders beat them in the bubble. Like, they were the clear-cut favorite. But I absolutely need a film crew following them the entire year with Tony D'Angelo and John Tortorella and Kevin Hayes. all these crazy different kinds of personalities. Like, it is going to be nonstop humor for fans. And, like, part of me wants them to be good, right? Because, like, just Philly sports, like, when they're good, like, Philly sports is fun. Like, those fans are insane. Like, it is just a fun city to be in. So, you know, I hope the Flyers are good. But I can't with this team on paper right now. I'm looking and I'm just like, you know, as far as the Metro goes, like the Metro is so deep and their top six are decent. But after that, it's just like, come on, like what are we doing? I mean, like no disrespect to Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee, and Owen Tippett. Like they're good young players, but like, I don't know. I guess they haven't like really proved themselves yet.
That's totally fair. You know, Bruce, you'd mentioned earlier Sean Couturier. I've been a fan of this player in the past. If he's healthy, I mean, he can be a very effective player.
Definitely.
Great.
Was he number one overall pick?
I don't know if he was number one. I thought he's somewhere in the top 5, wasn't he? I don't know if he's first overall. I can check that for you, but
I will look right now.
All right, Bruce, you take a look. Last year, 7.6 shooting percentage, lowest since 2012, 2013. His 5-on-5 shooting percentage, or his team's even strength shooting percentage, was 6%. And his IPP was 56.7. That was the second lowest of his career. So everything was down across the board for him basically last year in terms of his wowies. Yeah, Johnny, what's up?
Can I ask you what an IPP is? I don't even know what that is.
His individual points percentage.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, what percentage of points he was involved in while he was on the ice.
Got it. That's cool stat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's up, Bruce?
He forgot to send him the acronym sheet.
Oh, yeah. I got to send out the legend. Yeah.
Was there one that was...
No, there's not actually. Bruce just likes to harass me because I throw these numbers out sometimes. And
no, I know most of them, but you know, I got to speak up when I second lowest of his career. I got to ask what that means. You know?
It's IPP. So a good value here on Couturier. He's actually going 156th overall in Yahoo right now. And I've got him pegged for 30 goals and 75 points. Last year, he was only playing at a 48-point pace, so really not much to like there last season. But his 3-year average is 67 points and 26 goals. So, Johnny, what do you think?
I actually happen to like him a lot as a player. Like, I'd love him if he was on my team. And, you know, I think he'll have, you know, 10 games to kind of get his feet wet a little bit. He hasn't played in a long time, and it's hard to really kind of throw yourself into a real live game after sitting out that long. So I don't think he'll get off to such a fast start, but you know, he'll have the opportunity, right? He'll play first line minutes. He's a first line center. He'll play first unit power play. So like the chances will be there, you know? So I think there's no reason why he can't put up the amount of points that, you're kind of projecting here. It's all based on the guys around him, right? Like, it's hard to tell because like Travis Konechny, another good player, like Kevin Hayes, another good player, James Van Riemsdyk, another good player, but like, can they put it together?
What do you expect from these guys this season, right? I think I have some hope for them just given that Torts is there, right? But expectations are not very high either, so.
Also, Carter Hart's just been like so up and down.
He has, yeah. Yeah, he's burned Bruce many times in the past in fantasy.
Every year.
Every year.
Going back to the well. Probably will again this year.
So, Bruce, on Couturier, you're taking the over the under on 30 goals and 75 points.
I think I'm going to go slightly over.
Okay, so you like Couturier for this year.
I think he could creep towards 80 points.
Okay.
So speaking of 80 points, he was eighth overall pick in 2011.
8th overall pick.
Okay.
Who was number 1 that year, if you don't mind me asking?
Let's see here.
8th overall. I don't know why I felt like he was 1.
Yeah, I thought he was 3rd for some reason, but.
Well, I just remember him being hyped up a lot in his World Junior. Like, he was the guy for Canada.
Yeah. John should know this one. It's one of his favorite players.
What was the draft year again?
2011.
Oh, well, that was Nuge.
Exactly.
Nuge, yep.
Wow. Who would you rather have now?
Well, we love Nuge here in oil country, but I mean that's hard because Couturier, like I don't know, he's so good on the face-off.
He's a beast.
Like he's a great player. I don't know. I'm gonna just plead the fifth on this one. All right, let's talk about Travis Konechny. He's had some flashes of brilliance, I guess, in the past. Last season, 52 points, 16 goals in 79 games played. So that was a 54-point pace for him. But his individual shooting percentage was a career low. His shots on goal at 2.8 was a career high. Career highs in power play time and time on ice, and then some good things there. So I've got 26 goals and 62 points. That feels a bit high maybe, but Johnny, what do you think?
No, I think that's accurate. He's a guy that Torch will spark a fire under his ass. Like, he is a Torch guy. like Konechny he's so fun to watch, man. He just reminds me a lot of those like Braden Points, Brendan Gallagher. Of course, they're the smaller guys, but also like a lot of Ryan Callahan. Like an old Ranger that played amazing under Torch. Like, that's kind of what I see as Konechny. So I think he's gonna thrive. I think he'll be like the best player for the Flyers this year, without a doubt.
Okay, there you go. So you take the over then, or is that?
I'll take 30 goals. Honestly, okay. I think he'll put up 30.
There you go. Speaking of Callahan, I was a big fan of Callahan's actually when he was in New York playing for Torch. That was, he was great.
He was the best. He was the best.
Totally. Bruce, what do you think Konechny for this year?
I think he's going to be over 70 points. I love him as well. I think he'll go over 70 points.
I just love his facial expressions sometimes. Like that one press conference.
He's a pest.
Oh, geez, yeah. He's a funny guy to watch. JVR. Bruce, I've tried to hawk this guy to you many times mid-season. Let him score like 6 or 8 goals in 2 games and then try to trade him. He's going undrafted right now in fantasy drafts, so take that for what it's worth. Not a whole lot to report in terms of his numbers here, but 38 points, 24 goals, 38-point pace last season. So 25 goals and 50 points. Does that feel about right to you, Johnny, or what do you think about James Van Riemsdyk?
He's so confusing. Like,
totally.
I feel like every year I feel like James Van Riemsdyk is like tearing it up, and like granted, like 24 goals is a lot. Like that's a great year in the NHL, but like I always feel like for some reason he has like 30 or 35. Like every night I watch the NHL Network, I feel like James Van Riemsdyk is just like always putting in a rebound like every single night for some reason. He's just like one of the best net front guys there is in the league, I think, right now, or maybe not one of the best, but like a top 20, I would say.
He's great.
But his like is skating maybe like he's not the fastest anymore. Like I know he's been around for he's probably going on like year 11. He's been around for at least a decade.
Yeah, he's been around for a long time.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Like these Flyers players, like a bunch of big bodies, Couturier, Hayes, Van Riemsdyk, like they should be dominant. But yeah, I would say 25, 50-point range is pretty accurate. It really all depends on how dog shit or successful their power play is, because it can't be much worse, right? Like it can't get much worse than 12.6% or whatever that number was. Let me double check.
It has to go up.
Yeah, 12.6. Like that is terrible.
Yeah. He was a 2007 draft pick, so been around for quite a while. Okay, well, yeah, but Bruce, what do you think? You taking the over/under on Van Riemsdyk?
Oh God, it's tough to tell with him. He's all over the place.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like he just, I don't know.
Was it 2 seasons ago? He was just incredible there for that one thing, and then he just disappeared.
Yeah, he had 27 goals. Yeah, COVID. 27 goals in 18-19. He had 36 goals in his last season in Toronto.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like he was scoring like 30, 35 goals. Like he was there.
Yeah, he was. And I mean, he's been close, like 17 and 56. He might have scored 30 that year if he'd stayed, like if it was a full season. 19 and 66. Like,
once they get 50 points.
Yeah. Okay. Kevin Hayes. I think this guy's gonna have a better season. He had some personal tragedy last year he's dealing with, and that's, these guys are still people, right? And so when stuff happens, it's going to affect their performance. I think he'll have a better season. 31 points, 10 goals in 48 games played. He's still on a 53-point pace. 7.9 individual shooting percentage was a career low for him. So I am predicting 24 goals and 50 points. Johnny, what do you think?
He had surgery as well, too, right, last year?
Yeah, he had an injury, yeah.
Surgery, I think he had more than one.
Yeah, he had a tough year, man. And, he's obviously a great player, too. Like, I have to imagine he'll have a bounce-back year. I can't see it any other way. You kind of said it perfectly, Devin. Like, I don't really have much else to say on that note. Like, he's a human being, and sometimes he's like, you saw it with Brock Besser too last year. Like there's a lot of stuff going on off the ice, and these things affect how people play. And I'm not saying it got any easier for him, but I'm sure it'll be a little bit less of a distraction this season.
Yeah.
I would say over for sure. I think he'll have 25 goals, 50 point range is good, 55 maybe even.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Bruce, anything to add to that?
If he can stay healthy, he'll go over. I was just looking here. He hasn't played a full season in his career.
Ever? Wow.
Ever. So the past 6 years, the most games he's played is 70. And that was in 1920. Otherwise, it's been 55 or less.
Was 1920 technically a shortened season, though? Or did they play the full 82?
Which was the shortened season?
That was the bubble.
That might have been 2021, wasn't it? Or, well, maybe it was 1920.
The closest then.
Yeah, 19. Yeah, I think you might be right there, Johnny.
I don't know. I don't know. I actually just don't know the number.
I can't remember now.
I think 20 was when they played. Was that in? Yeah, I think that was the bubble. Well, we can go back and look. Yeah.
2021 was like the 58 game year, I think. Or whatever it was.
That's right.
Maybe.
That's right. Yeah. It's all a blur. It's all behind us now.
Yeah. Literally feels like another life ago.
Yeah, it does.
But if he's healthy, he's over.
Okay. Joel Farabee. I won't get too deep into this guy here. I've got 23 goals, 51 points. Johnny, like the over-under?
I'm going to say under. Third line guy, 23 goals. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe a bit optimistic there. Bruce, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a little under.
Okay. Cam Atkinson, actually. This is a guy, I've liked him in the past. He's been productive. Last year, 50 points, 23 goals in 73 games. His team's even strength shooting percentage with him on the ice was a bit high at 10.5%, so something to keep an eye on there. But I've got him at 24 goals and 54 points. Johnny, what do you think?
So I think this might be one of the most fun lines in the NHL this year, if they do stay healthy. Just because right now I think it's Van Riemsdyk, Hayes, Atkinson. They all have a ton of familiarity with each other.
Yeah.
They're all from that, I think Van Riemsdyk's from New Jersey, excuse me. But Hayes and Atkinson played together, I believe, in college. Van Riemsdyk around the same area, played for UNH. I think these guys are just very familiar with each other through that USA program too, I think, as well. So I think the chemistry is there off the ice, and if they get going on the ice, they'll be a lot of fun to watch these three together, and I really hope they do well. Cool. I didn't say the over-under, no, did I? I'll say 27 goals for Atkinson and 60 points.
Perfect. Bruce, what do you think?
I'll buy that.
Okay. Newcomer Tony DeAngelo. Right now he's going at 120th overall in Yahoo. 51 points, 10 goals, and 64 games played last season. His 3-year average right now is 63 points and 15 goals. I've got him pegged for 14 goals and 65 points here in Philly. Johnny, what do you think? I saw some hot takes too. I'm trying to remember who it was. I can't remember if it was Nate Bruce or not, but somebody was saying they thought Tony DeAngelo could be like an 80-point player.
I was just going to say he's going to have the best year of his career this year, for sure, without a doubt.
Okay.
I think like he's from that area. Like the fans like love him, I think, and the guys love him. From like obviously there's a lot of outside noise around him, but from everyone I know that's played with him, like they love him as a teammate. So like I think he'll be like this last year he played great, but he was still like in a prove it, rebuild myself, this like rebrand for Tony DeAngelo of some sort. So I think this year he'll just be a little more comfortable. But then again, like I am very curious to see how his personality meshes with Torts' because I feel like they're kind of the same vibe, so they might bash heads a little bit. But yeah, if I had to guess whether DeAngelo was going to have a great year or a bad year, like I would take great. Like I think he's going to maybe even put up like 20 goals, honestly, as a defenseman. And that's interesting too, right? Because Provorov has been their number one power play guy, but they might play together on the first unit. I don't really know what they're going to do as far as their power play setup. I actually want to check this out quick. Like right now I'm seeing it on Daily Faceoff that DeAngelo's quarterbacking the first power play unit with Atkinson, Konechny, Couturier, and James Van Riemsdyk, and there's no way or there's no reason why those guys can't click, So I see DeAngelo having like I could see it. I could see the 80 points. I don't think it's crazy.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember who it was. I have to look back at that, but it seemed high. But I guess if everything clicks and goes the right way, it could totally happen.
Mm-hmm. What do you have last year? He had 64 last year?
51 points in 64 games. 51. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But again, he didn't play a ton of 5-on-5, I don't think, right? Like in Carolina. He played like he was kind of a power play specialist, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I could see him playing over 20 minutes in Philly.
For sure.
So Provorov, speaking of ice time, so Provorov just never seemed to click, hey, as a power play, like as their quarterback on the power play. Like he's their best defenseman defensively. Probably. Is there someone I don't think there's anyone better right now defensively. And that's maybe not saying much in Philadelphia. But, but I mean, I've got him for 11 goals and 42 points. What do you think, Johnny?
He's a confusing one.
He sure is.
11 goals, 42 points. Well, I guess like we said, right? They can't be much worse than last year. So I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Okay. Ristolainen I've got here mostly for the fact that he hits a ton. Just about 3.5 hits per game. So if you're playing in a Bangers League, definitely a guy you want to take a look at. 125 blocks as well, so just shy of 2 blocks per game. And good for about 30 points. His 3-year average is 30 points, 5 goals. I've got him at 7 goals and 32 points. Does that seem reasonable?
How many goals did he have that maybe his last season with Buffalo? Do you remember he had that nasty, like, between the legs, top shelf?
Yeah.
He has skill. Like, I don't know where it went, but
I don't know either.
He's capable, though, so 7 goals is definitely...
Well, and one thing I'll mention, too, here quick, he shot at 2% last year. Like, that was a career low. And 1.5 shots on goal per game. Like, he was not good last season. So if things... And two, I guess it was his first year in Philly, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you tell me, Johnny, like, you've played hockey, you've moved around a little bit. Like, going to a new team, there's an adjustment period, right?
Always. Well, also, dude, you got to, like... He didn't really like upgrade, he went from Buffalo to Philly, like it's kind of like I don't know. That's a tough. I guess I've kind of done that, but like that's a tough transition when you go from, like arguably the worst franchise in the NHL, almost like obviously Arizona's like right there, kind of, but Buffalo's not the worst franchise in the NHL, but like the last decade or so they kind of have been. Yeah, and then you go to a team that's like a pretty solid franchise, but then they become a joke. So it's I don't know. I wouldn't put too much blame on the player. More of a team thing.
There you go. Okay, Bruce, any thoughts on Ristolainen?
Not really, no.
Okay. So then, Bruce, I'm going to ask you about Carter Hart because I know you're a big Carter Hart fan, even though he's let you down the past couple seasons here. But right now he's going at 170th overall in Yahoo. Last season, 13, 24, and 7, a 3.16 goals against average, a 905 save percentage, and a negative 11 goals saved above expected. Like we said many times already through this segment, they can't get any worse. I think So there you go. I've got him at 53 starts next year, Bruce. 65% net share, 28 wins. What do you think?
I like it. I'll take it.
They'll take that one.
Like you
Okay.
said, you can't get any worse. And with Torts being the coach now, they're going to tighten things up, and they're going to be in this a lot more, and they're going to help hard out, because a lot of games when you watched it, it was like watching pond hockey. It's like, oh, there goes by the defenseman. Oh, look, and there's Hart without his pants. They're going to be a lot stronger defensively in front of him, and he's going to have a better season as a result.
Okay.
Johnny,
Johnny, yeah, okay.
I was going to say they're going to be just more defensively minded, and Bruce said it perfectly.
I think in terms of like fantasy hockey, you might there could be some value had in Philly, just based because no one's drafting these guys, right? So I think there might be a couple late round steals throughout the draft. Okay, before we move on to our next team here, we just want to let our listeners know about DraftKings. The NFL's opening week was action-packed, and it's just getting started. Get ready for week 2 of touchdowns, big plays, and even bigger wins with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on any football game and get $200 in free bets instantly. Want more action? Everyone can experience the thrill of DraftKings early win promotion. It's simple. This Sunday, bet on any NFL team to win. If your team leads by 10 points at any point during the game, you get paid instantly, even if your team loses. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's promo code THPN, only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Check the show notes for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by checking the details in the show notes. And then one other thing, too, I just want to mention, Bruce, it's the season for Fantasy Hockey Podcast, getting ready for all the drafts. I've been checking out lots of fantasy hockey podcasts and hockey-related content, and it's been great. One reason is that I listen to all these podcasts with my Raycon wireless earbuds. So Raycon's everyday earbuds, they look, feel, and sound great. Optimized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit. These earbuds are so comfortable, and they will not budge. Promise. Raycon gives you 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life. They're priced just right. You get quality audio at half the price of other premium audio brands. Raycon's everyday earbuds have over 50,000 5-star reviews. And the customizable sound profiles are nice. Earbud tap functions, noise isolation, and much more. Go to raycon.com today and use promo code THPN15 to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's promo code THPN at buyraycon.com to score 15% off. Okay, Johnny, now the business is out of the way, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins, who were 46, 25, and 11 last year, third in the Metro. Goals for, 3.28 was 11th. Goals against, 2.71 was 5th. Goals for percentage, 54.79%. Corsi for, 52 was a top 10 team. 20.2 on the power play was 19th, and the PK was third at 84.4. They've got 15 back-to-back sets this season, tied for second most with the Islanders and the Flyers. And that's a typo because definitely not just 3% of the games are played on light days. But we'll correct that, so check the show notes later. Key additions, Drake Caggiula from Buffalo, Jan Ruta from Tampa, Jeff Petrie in that trade with Montreal, Ryan Paling in that trade with Montreal as well, Ty Smith in that trade with New Jersey, John Marino left to go to the Devils, Mike Matheson went to Montreal in that trade, and Louis Domingue as a UFA from the Rangers. So I guess, Johnny, they signed some existing players too. Malkin and Letang are around for another 17 years. I guess that's actually only 6, but they signed those guys long term. Do you think they got better, worse, or really no different in the offseason?
I actually think they're going to win the Metro this year.
I like it.
They're my pick to win the Metro, and I think management in the front office kind of just said we're going to take one more run at this. These guys, those 3 guys have been there for 15 years together. So I just think if they are able to stay healthy, they're top 9, not even top 6. Like their top 3 lines are, I think, on paper better than anyone in the Eastern Conference. Like you got Crosby, who can basically play with anyone. Yeah. He made Connor Sherry and Brian Rust into NHL superstars.
Sure.
But Jake Gensel is now a solidified 40-goal scorer.
Yep.
Malkin, I think, was a point a game last year and played half the year. He was hurt the first half of the year. He'll be back healthy, ready to go. Tristan Jarry had a really strong bounce back year after a disappointing playoff against the Islanders. I think like this team on paper, their defenseman I think got better. Like their right side defenseman, Jan Ruda's a Stanley Cup winning defenseman. Petrie's a stud. Chris Letang, obviously a future Hall of Famer. Like they're as good as it gets. I think they underachieved in the playoffs. Obviously, like, to my advantage, they lost to the Rangers. But, like, there's people are forgetting that, like, Tristan Jarry only played Game 7. Like, he had a really strong year. Like, he could have easily made a difference in that series. And, I think the Penguins should be as scary as ever.
I love it. I feel good about the Penguins this year, too. And I want to start with Tristan Jarry, actually, because I was beating the Tristan Jarry drum this time last summer. I said he's going to have a great season. He went 34, 18, and 6, 242 goals against average, a 919 save percentage, and a 5.92 goals saved above expected. Bruce, you were on his case because of that really beautiful play.
Pass out of the zone.
Yeah, in the playoffs this time, or like last season. But anyway.
Which play was that?
He just gave the puck away at the blue line. He went to go pass it out of the zone and turn it over. They scored.
In the Ranger series?
I don't know. It was like the playoffs before that.
Oh, against the Islanders.
Yeah.
He was terrible. Yeah, he was terrible. He was terrible in that series.
It was a perfect pass to the Islanders player, and he put it behind him before he could stick back on the ice.
Pretty much dead to Bruce after that. But anyway, I like Tristan Jarry. Like, a lot of people have him as a top 10 goalie for this year. Is that a stretch to say, Johnny?
I don't see why not. I mean, like, his numbers last year were very above average, like very strong numbers, and his team is solid in front of him, right? Like, they're like, honestly, the most impressive thing about the Penguins that you don't even like know was their penalty kill. Yeah. I think you stated it. They were what? They were. I have it written down here.
Was it third?
Yeah, third best PK, and even in the playoffs, they were really good in the playoffs. Like, they deserve to beat the Rangers in that series. Like, I'm sure Ranger fans that listen to me would attack me for saying that, but like, anyone who watched all 7 games, like, the Penguins were the better team. They just like kind of shot themselves in the foot, and I think that might set them. Or might give them a little more motivation this season, right? I think they've had a couple of first-round exits now in the last couple of years after their back-to-back cups. So, you got Crosby, if he could stay healthy, best player in the world still. Like, obviously Connor McDavid is the future and I guess the present also. But, as far as hockey IQ and everything goes, Crosby is one of the best probably the best I've ever seen. No one thinks the game like he can, and no one can skate like he can with his edges and everything he does. And Gensel continues to improve. Brian Russ is a great player. They're like Jeff Carter's their third line center, and Jeff Carter's an amazing NHL. Like, he's an amazing NHL player. Like, I think that's their depth is just really what separates them. I think, and they haven't really been able to stay healthy. I think a lot throughout the last couple of years. So I think really, if they're healthy, like I'm giving Pittsburgh the Metro Division this year.
Okay, and then in terms of starts for Jarry, I've got 58 starts. That's 70% net share, 36 wins. What do you think?
Who's their backup right now?
Casey DeSmith.
Yeah, I think the 58 to 60 is accurate for Jarry. DeSmith is solid, but he's not like I think Jarry can handle the workload.
Okay. Bruce, what's your level of acceptance for Jarry right now?
I'll take it. Yeah, he played much better last year. Much better.
Totally.
It's almost like you took that pass to the Islanders player there in the playoffs personally and made it his mission to come out better last year, and he was a lot better last year. He was a much better goaltender, and it will continue.
Okay. So let's go back to forwards here. We'll start with Crosby. Johnny, you mentioned him a couple times. Obviously, a healthy level of respect there for Sid. He's one of my favorite players all time, honestly. Just love to watch that player. Right now, going still at this point in his career, going 19th overall in fantasy drafts, 84 points last year, 31 goals in 69 games played. So he's on a 100-point pace last year. I've got him for 35 goals and 95 points.
It's so funny because I hate him, but I love him. Like as a hockey fan, I hate him, but as a hockey player and just an appreciation for the sport, I love him because he just makes it look so easy, and it's almost frustrating how good he is. But yeah, no, I think the 100 point range is right up there.
Sure.
He's what, 36, 37 years old? He's
35. He turned 35 in August.
35. Yeah. Okay, so he's man, it's so weird. I can't imagine a a life without like Crosby and Ovechkin in the league. Like it's so scary to think how old we're getting.
Yeah, no,
nuts.
truth. Yeah, truly. Like, and we're only gonna have him for a few more years. Honestly,
Yeah,
it's
like
weird.
3 or 4. Yeah, like
3.
nuts.
He signed for 3.
Yeah.
Well, and then he said he'd kind of think about things after that, right? But
Yeah.
I could see him like maybe playing 1 year in a different franchise, just going for one more cup. Like, you know, why
once they
not?
decide to rebuild in Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yeah, because that's gonna happen, right? Like it's inevitable.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's a perfect projection for Crosby. Like they're like maybe I would say maybe less in the goals, like maybe 27 to 30 goals, but definitely like 65 to 70 assists for sure. There's no reason why you can't do that.
Yeah. Okay, Bruce, I'm assuming you kind of feel the same.
He's going to hit 100. He's going to hit 100 points again. He's going
Okay. Let's move on to Gensel here then. So again, Johnny, you mentioned 40-goal guy in his sleep, right? I've got him set for 44 goals and 92 points. Last year, 84 points in 76 games played, so he's on a 91-point pace. So I'm not really stretching that far in my projection, I don't think. Power play time on ice and power play points were both career highs for him last year. Going on average at 33rd overall in drafts. Do you like the over-under for him?
I'm gonna give a hot take here. Gensel's getting 50.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You
I
heard it
think
here
he's
first.
just like I think he's really established himself in the league, and I think if Malkin's healthy for that first power play unit, like just so much more of a threat because everyone's attention goes to Malkin, right? And that leaves kind of Gensel a little bit in the dust because Malkin is like, if you ask me, I think on their power play, Malkin's still the biggest threat. He's got the best shot. His one-timer is super accurate, and he is like the sniper on that unit. But Gensel has like that, shiftiness at the net front to put in a rebound, or like his goal in Game 7 this year was the sickest thing I've ever seen. Do you remember that goal? He kicked the puck in midair from his skate to his stick, and I was
nuts.
I was like shook. I was because obviously I was there. It was Game 7 in the Garden, and it's a 1-1 game that puts the Penguins in the lead, and I was like. I wasn't even mad. I was like, that was the sickest thing I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen a player
honestly
kick the puck up and back. Like, that was so sick.
It was nuts.
But that's just like what he's capable of. And I think, I really just think there's a different aura about this next 2 to 3 years for the Penguins because this is their last dance. This is it.
That's funny you said that because the artwork for our blog post, I said Sid in last dance territory. That was exactly what I said. So
and that's what it is.
Yeah.
They've won 3 cups together.
Yeah. Yeah. Great documentary, too, if you haven't seen it, which I don't think many people have missed at this point, but it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bruce Gensel, you're on board with 50, or is that too much too rich for your blood?
No, I agree. He'll get there.
Brucey, we're aligned.
There you go. Okay, Malkin. Right now, 61.8 in Yahoo. I've got him here for 36 goals and 88 points. Last year, 42 points, 20 goals, and 41 games played. So, Johnny, to your point earlier, point per game. It looks like 2020, 2021 was a bit of an outlier here. He produced at a rate of just 0.85 points per game. That was a career low for him. The rest of his career, he's been basically over a point per game, right? And sometimes close to a point and a half or whatever. But he's been a producer, but health is always the concern with him, right? Like, you just don't know. There's always nagging injuries or this or that. I mean, do you think he can play this season? And
I'm blanking on what his injury was last year. Do you guys happen to know what it was last year? Was it a hip?
That sounds familiar, but yeah, Bruce, you got
I'll look it up here.
All right.
Because depending on the injury,
yeah, that's a fair point, right? If it's a nagging injury or what, but
because he looked great in the playoffs, I thought he was fine in the playoffs. Yeah,
he looked back to his regular self, honestly, and I think too, maybe the contract situation was weighing on him.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's out of the way. He knows Sid's there for another few years. Letang's there. Gensel. I think he probably feels better about the team situation and his own situation.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm saying. That's why I just have this feeling about them this year.
Yeah.
No,
I do too. Totally.
A knee injury. Okay.
Okay.
So knees are tough, especially at his age. I don't think he'll play all 82, but he'll play 75. I would say at least. But so you can't really predict that, right? That's
no. I mean, but He's just tough. He's tough. You never know how many games he's going to miss, right? But every year he's going to miss some. That's just a guarantee.
But yeah, I'll put Malkin north of 35 goals this year, and 88 points, 90 points, that range, I would say. I'm expecting like a really big year from him.
Okay. Let's talk about Brian Russ. You mentioned him earlier. Yeah, it's just he kind of came out of nowhere. It seems like, right? But again, playing with Sid, players develop. They start producing. He's going 95th overall in Yahoo right now. 58 points, 24 goals in 60 games played last year. That was a 79-point pace. Shot rate was a career high at 3 a game, 67% power play share, 21 power play points, career high. I've got him at 35 goals and 75 points.
35 goals. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
What's his career high?
Oh, Bruce, you probably have a better mouse than I do right now.
Sorry, I was just looking up Evgeny Malkin and a KT tape sponsorship to hold them together for the whole season.
That's good.
Last year he's on pace for 34 goals.
Mm-hmm.
So
he played 60 games?
60 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if he can do it, if he can play a full 82.
I don't know. 35 goals for Brian Russ just sounds like a lot. I don't know why. I think, I would say 30 is, fair for him. 35, I don't know.
Too much.
Yeah, too much.
Okay. Bruce, any thoughts on Rust?
The number seems high, but you look at how many games he's played and, like you said, his scoring pace, if he can play a full season, he could get there.
Well, the one argument I'll make was I'm pretty sure he was on Sid's line last year, right? It was Sid, Gensel, Rust.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, when he was healthy, he bumped Rodriguez out of that spot, and that's where he went.
But do you think do you think that line will start the season, or do you think they'll bump Ricard Raquel up? Because Ricard Raquel, came in at the deadline, and he is more of a skilled guy, I would say, than Brian Russ. So I feel like he might get that opportunity, whereas Russ is kind of interchangeable. So if Russ isn't playing with Sid, I don't think he's scoring, north of 30.
Totally fair.
No, you're very true.
I just don't know what their lineup is right now.
Yeah,
I would imagine that he's not playing with Sid to start the year if they got Ricard Raquel.
And I would bank on him playing with Sid. That's what
You
I'm
would?
banking. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Sid likes his grinders. I think he's got chemistry with Russ too, right? But they did sign Ricard Raquel to was it another 6-year deal or something, right? So they're banking on Raquel producing as well. So hard to say.
He's up next year. Good transition right here.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about Ricard Raquel.
Yeah.
170.8. My points prediction for him: 21 goals and 55 points. So I mean, I'm maybe not as high on him as some guys are, but he was also playing in Anaheim for a long time and doing nothing. So
yeah.
What do you think?
If he's playing with Sid, man, I'm giving him 30 goals. It all depends on where he is in the lineup. Like if he's playing with Sid, he could be the 35 because he's got so much skill. Like he's a great player, and he'll probably get power play time too. I think it all depends on which line he's on. If he's with Sid, I'm giving him 35 goals, 65, 70 points.
Okay. The thing with him too is he's going so late in drafts, like 171st overall, basically. Like he's almost into waiver fodder material here. So probably a great pickup at the end of your draft.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh yeah, sleeper for sure.
Jeff Carter, you mentioned him earlier. Still, I have a healthy amount of respect for him as a hockey player. Like he was productive when they had all those injuries. Was it start of last season, or was that the year before?
No, that was last year.
Was that last
Yeah,
year?
they weren't very healthy last year.
Yeah.
They weren't very healthy.
And Jeff Carter was, him and Rodriguez were great to start the season. So playing in a third line center role, I think he can be productive this year. I've got him for 20 goals and 45 points.
20 goals, third line center. I don't know.
This is the Metro winning Pittsburgh Penguins we're talking about here.
I know. That's why I'm like, and it's a proven guy. It's just
he's got the Malkin injury bump in there, right? So when Malkin gets hurt again, because we know he will.
That's true.
Bumped up to the second line, and he'll produce a little bit more. So that's where it's the.
And Sid's probably gonna get hurt too.
Yeah. 4 or 5, 6 games. Yeah, sure.
The injury bump.
That's interesting though. Like when you think of a third line center, you don't think 20 goals, but for him, it's not that far fetched.
His 3-year average is actually 23 goals.
His career average?
His 3-year average.
Oh, 3-year average. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's fair then. I mean, I guess I'm sleeping on him a little bit.
All right. Any thoughts on Kapanen? Because he's kind of been up and down. I honestly, I think at this point he's kind of a bit of a depth add or a depth piece in terms of fantasy, but he's had some chemistry with Malkin at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have too many thoughts. Solid third line guy, can kind of fit anywhere. Like if he needed to play first 5 minutes, I'm sure he could. Would he be like, above and beyond? Probably not, but he's capable of it, I think. But he's not like not an overachiever. He's just like what you're going to get from Kasperi Kapanen, and just a solid player. But he does have a lot of skill to him too. Like, he scored some nasty goals in Toronto, and he had a couple. Like his curl and drag is actually pretty solid. He has a solid release on that. He scored a really nice goal, I think, this year against Shesterkin, posting in on a curl and drag.
And speed to burn.
Yeah, no, he's like he could be, a top 6 first line guy, questionably in another organization. But here I think he's just a solid depth guy, like you said.
Okay, let's move on to defenseman real quick. Chris Letang, obviously, like you'd mentioned, future Hall of Famer. Right now he's going at just around 60th overall in Yahoo. 68 points last year, 10 goals in 78 games played. His shooting percentage was actually his lowest since 2017-2018. It's 4.7%. 2.1 hits per game was actually a career high for him. And he's avoided injury here in the last couple seasons. So, knock on wood, I think he can be a top defenseman again in fantasy and in the league if he stays healthy here. So I've got 15 goals and 70 points. What do you think, Johnny?
He's definitely faced a lot of injury stuff throughout his career. Didn't he? He had a stroke, right? Like something crazy a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was a few years ago.
Yeah.
That was scary. He nothing since then, right? I mean, he's been.
I don't think. I don't think so. But I know that's why there was I think there was some backlash in the Ranger Penguin series. I think someone hit him in the head, and obviously, no one wants to see that anyway, no matter the situation. But, man, Letang, it's so weird because I feel like he's so underrated right now, but he's the number 1 defenseman on a really strong team,
on a Metro winning team.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Something about Letang. Would you consider him a top 10 defenseman right now? I say no.
I would say yes. I would say yeah.
You would.
I'm a Letang fan. Well, if we're talking fantasy,
are you just a Penguins fan?
No, I'm an Oilers fan.
Every guy. I know. I see. I'm messing with you. Every guy in the Penguins you love.
But I am a big Pens fan too. They were a lot of fun to watch, right? And Sidney Crosby. As a Canadian, it's hard not to love Sid, and then just that team. They've been a lot of fun to watch too. So.
It's so funny because I hate the Penguins are the team I hate the most. I grew up and they play the Rangers in the playoffs every year.
Yeah.
So
No, I can totally understand. I mean, it's funny. I talked to a lot of guys from out east, and they despise the Penguins, but they're they're fun to watch. So, I don't know. In terms of fantasy, anyway, he covers categories. He's great for bangers leagues, and he's good for 12 to 16 goals mostly or usually, and 60 or 70 points. So I don't know. Bruce, what's your thoughts on Letang?
He stays healthy. He'll get there again. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm really curious actually about Jeff Petrie, Johnny's, because he had a really down year in Montreal last year. It was no secret he wanted out of Montreal. He had his lowest shooting percentage since his sophomore season, 4.8%. His shot volume was down to 1.8. He was still over 2 hits per game, but just 27 points in 68 games played. Do you see him having a bounce-back season? I've got him at 12 goals, 45 points. What do you think?
I think he for sure has a bounce-back year. It's all mental. In this scenario, we talked about Ristolainen before, but you're going from a team that was horrendous last year to 3 Stanley Cups in the last 13 years in the Penguins.
Yeah.
So he's coming into a winning organization. Not that Montreal typically isn't, because they're the most historic franchise in the NHL, but they had some rough goes. I think your game also just goes to a different level when you play with Sid, right? It just
the expectations are higher, right?
Yeah, you're just more motivated. You want to do better. The team's going to do better. It's just a different vibe, and I think he'll have. I think he might clip 50 points. I would say I'd give him a little benefit of the doubt here, because he'll probably also quarterback that second power play unit. He's got a hell of a shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say 50.
And just on the the off chance that Letang does go down with injury, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always that chance he gets power play one time too. So,
Mhm.
And then good value again, 146 overall in Yahoo. Okay, let's move on. Last team here, Washington Capitals. Johnny, thanks, man. You've been really generous with your time here. We'll try.
I could do this all night.
All right, man. We'll try and fly through the Capitals here then. So they were 44, 26, and 12, fourth in the Metro last year. 3.29 goals for per game was 10th. 2.95 goals against was 13th. Goals for, 52.73 was 13th. Corsi for, 50% was 12th. Power play was 23rd at 18.8%. That seems odd with the personnel they have there. But and then the PK was 12th at 80.4%. So they had 11 back-to-back sets coming up this season, tied for fourth fewest with Anaheim and Los Angeles. And 33% of the games are played on light days. They added Connor Brown in that trade with Ottawa. Dylan Strome as a UFA. Eric Gustafson as a UFA. Darcy Kemper as a UFA. Charlie Lindgren in that trade to St. Louis. And then Schultz left for Seattle. Vanacek in that trade to New Jersey. And Ilya Samsonov in the trade to Toronto. Johnny, how do you see Washington this year? Better, worse, or no different?
Missing the playoffs.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Also, I don't know the exact timeline, but I do know that to start the season, they're going to be without Backstrom, without Tom Wilson.
Yep.
And I'm not sure about Carl Hagelin. I know Hagelin had like a crazy eye injury last year.
Yeah.
I think in practice. But Tom Wilson and Backstrom are, arguably outside of Ovechkin, the most important guys in this team.
Sure.
And Darcy Kemper could have that Stanley Cup hangover. I think Kemper, he's a solid goalie, but is he by no means a goalie that can steal you a game? Not necessarily, right? He kind of got lucky with Colorado last year. He was not a great goalie in the playoffs last year. I know he got his injury as well in that series against the Preds in the first round where the stick hit him in the face.
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't see this Capitals team being that scary for the first time that I can remember.
I don't totally disagree. Kemper, he was actually pretty good. He exceeded my expectations, honestly, in the regular season last year. He had 37 wins and a .921 save percentage. But like you said, in the playoffs, he wasn't very good. In the playoffs, he actually proved maybe you can outscore your troubles if your offense is good enough, right?
Yeah, best defense is a good offense.
Sure, right? And if the other team doesn't have the puck ever, what do you do? So, yeah, it's interesting. So I've got him at 55 starts this year and 34 wins. But, I mean, now listen to you speak, that's probably a little generous. What do you think? I
just for some reason this year, it's these early injuries. Like the Boston Bruins are another team. They're without McAvoy, without Grzelcyk, without Marchand to start the season. Those are difference makers. Backstrom is a difference maker. Wilson's a difference maker. We kind of saw with the Islanders last year. The Islanders were a team that went to back-to-back conference finals, and you get off to a rocky start, it could just traject your whole season in a negative aspect, right? So
Yep.
In what I think, maybe it's biased, is the toughest division in the league, the Metro. I just don't. I don't know if I'm giving other teams too much credit. I really do think the Islanders will get back in the playoffs this year. I think the Rangers will be good again. I think the Penguins, like I said, are going to win the Metro, and the Hurricanes. I think they got better too. I really just think the Capitals are just going to fall off a little bit. They're not going to have a bad year, but I don't think they're going to have a good enough year to make it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and they were fourth in the Metro last year, right?
Yeah.
And now they're coming to this season, like you said, without Tom Wilson and without Nicholas Backstrom. And Wilson, I think, is out until December sometime.
Something it seemed late. It's late in the year.
Yeah.
And also, every other team in the East, it seems got better. Right,
Yes.
Besides the Flyers,
the Hurricanes, the Hurricanes, they bring in Burns, and I mean it's unfortunate with Pacioretty and the Achilles thing, but that was a really nice addition too if he'd been healthy. So
yeah, but even their style of play in Carolina, the way that Brendan Moore coaches, and just their little 200-foot game, I haven't seen. Obviously the skill is different. Colorado, their skill, the way they skate, their speed is insane. But as far as team speed goes, Carolina is always above the puck.
Yeah.
They're rarely getting or allowing odd man chances. They are a very structurally sound team, and that's why I think they won't have any issues. I still think, and I hate saying this as a Ranger fan, but if Freddie Anderson's healthy, I think Carolina wins the Eastern Conference. they were so good. They were the only team that I really feared. And having Antti Ranta and I still don't know how to say his name, but I love talking about him. Pyotr Kakekov, however you say that name. Like having those guys in net was like a level of comfort for the Rangers and Ranger fans. You know, like Freddie Anderson could have argued. I think he kind of got snubbed on the Vezina voting this year.
Oh yeah, totally did. Okay. And then Backstrom too. Just should mention quickly, like when he does get back, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens because that same surgery we talked about it before on the show. Some players just never recover, or they come in and they play a few games and then they're done. Like, I mean, it's hip resurfacing surgery, I believe, Bruce. Yeah. And
no player that's had the surgery has come back and been productive.
Yeah. So I honestly am not banking on Backstrom even coming back this season, but we'll see what happens, I guess. Yeah. I think that's part of the reason for signing Strome, right?
Mm-hmm. And also like the concern there, like you said, their power play has been insane since Ovechkin joined the league, and last year it struggled. Like, where do you say they were 23rd last year? Like,
yeah.
You know, they're gonna. I think they're gonna struggle a little bit.
Okay, well, so with that, let's talk about Ovechkin here. Last season, 90 points, 50 goals in 77 games played. So it was a 96-point pace. It was his highest point per game rate since 2012, 2013. 2.01 hits per game. He hasn't dipped below 2 hits per game for the past 4 seasons. What do you think for him? He's over 50. You got to think he's over 50 goals again this year. No?
You can't not think that. Yeah. It's insane. I don't understand how. Like, also you just look at him and like he doesn't look like an athlete at all anymore. Like, he's just. But he like it's like watching him is honestly, if I could be one hockey player right now, it's Ovechkin, just because like he can just stand there and the puck comes to him and he'll just score. Like it's watching Ovechkin on the power play just stand still for 2 minutes is like the fucking funniest thing ever.
Yeah, they know exactly where he's shooting from, and nobody ever stops it. So,
yeah.
Bruce, you're taking the over on 50 goals again this year too?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, and then Johnny, I ask everybody this question: do you think is he going to break Gretzky's goal scoring record?
Yeah. I think. I also think he's the kind of guy that won't give up until he does it. You know, like.
Yeah.
Also, I think the Capitals would dress him as a 13th forward and just throw him out for power plays. Like, honestly,
they
I could
would
see
too.
That.
Yeah,
I could see that. It's still a threat. I could see that happening. Like, like honestly, if I was the coach, I would do that.
like it's like 6 minutes of power play time a game.
Yeah.
That's all he plays.
We don't need you for anything else. Just stand there.
Yeah.
And shoot.
Yeah.
Power play starts. They'll put him up in a wheelchair. Just put him right there.
Yeah.
Literally. And he'll still score.
No, but we joke about it. But like, let's be real here. Like, there's no harm in dressing him as a 13th forward, like as a 40-year-old, and just having him rip one tees like on the power play.
Absolutely not. No, yeah, like
no.
He could be like Jágr, be like 44 years old and just still playing power play time. So
yeah, I think he'll do it. He's what like 111 away. Is that the number?
I'd have to go back and look. It's not far, right? I mean, like realistically, it's really not. It's he's got time. So and a lot of people have suggested that if we hadn't had lockouts and COVID and all the rest of it, like he would have broken the record by now.
Yeah, think about all that stuff.
2 lockouts he's played through, right, and shortened seasons and all the rest of it. So
he's never really had any injuries either, right?
He's been pretty healthy his whole career.
Yeah,
very few injuries,
which is crazy with how physical he plays.
Yep. Kuznetsov, I've got him for 24 goals and 82 points next year. They're going to lean on him a bit more, right? He had career highs in power play time on ice and average time on ice. He played over 20 minutes a game. That's not going to change. Backstrom's out. So do you think a point per game is too much for him or not?
No, that's fair. I think he's so good. He's actually so fun to watch. Super skilled, great skater. So like honestly, just like smooth. Like everything he does is just like gorgeous in a sense, like for lack of a better term. You know, there's only so few guys that really just like can glide and like just look pretty out there. He's one of them. Yeah, you know,
for sure. Bruce, you like 24 goals, 82 points?
Oh, I've been burned by him so many times.
Oh, yeah, another one of those. Bruce is taking the under.
I think I'm going under,
Well, the goals, maybe not, but the points. I like the points. But I don't know if I'd give him 20. How many goals did he have last year? Oh, he had 24 last year?
24 last year, yeah.
Second highest total in his career.
I guess he's going to play the same amount. So, maybe that is fair. Yeah, that's fair. I just don't see him as like a goal scorer per se. I think he's more of like a playmaker, but
Yeah. Well, he's playing with Ovi, right? I think the expectation is he's passing the puck off. But Anthony Mantha, I'd say last year was a bit of a letdown for him. 15 minutes time on ice was his lowest since his rookie season. 2.2 shots on goal, his lowest since his rookie season. Just 33% power play share was a career low. His team's even strike shooting percentage was high. Like, there's lots of just negative things for him going on last season. So I've got him at 23 goals and 49 points. Johnny, what do you think?
I think he'll have a little bit more responsibility, similar to what we saw with him in Detroit. Like, he was kind of more of a top guy in Detroit, and this year I think right now he's playing on a line with Strome and Oshie, so like those are solid players.
Yeah.
He's a big body, has some skill. I think it's like pretty on par with what I'd expect. Like, I wouldn't call him a 25 goal scorer, but I could see him clipping 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's super fair. I just think, like, if Tom Wilson is out, I did you say Tom Wilson's out till December, right?
I think, yeah, don't quote me on that, but I think it was about December.
So I think that's the reason why I'd give him that extra boost, because like he will be that big power forward that they're missing in Wilson.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think he's as effective as Wilson is, but he'll have to fit that role. So that's why I would give him like a little boost.
Okay. Bruce, you're thinking something similar? What do you think?
I'd love to see him over 50 points. The kid has got talent galore. He just can't seem to put it together, right? Like, he's huge, right? He's 6'6", and
yeah, he's massive. Is he 6'6"?
I think he's. Let me double check.
Yeah, he's 6'5"
That's
or
huge.
6'6".
Holy shit, he's that big?
He's a monster. Yeah.
He's 6'5", 234.
Oh my god, that's
Like,
a big boy.
He's huge.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and he showed in Detroit that he could put up 30 goals. Like, if he could stay up on if he's on the top line until Wilson comes back, he can figure it out. He can do some serious damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably worth a swing at 164th in Yahoo right now. So
Yep.
give him a look. TJ Oshie, kind of a polarizing player. Some people like him, some people don't. In terms of fantasy, right? I mean, 160th right now in Yahoo. 25 points, 11 goals in 44 games played last year. I've got him at 26 goals and 60 points.
It's funny that you say everyone has like a love-hate with him, because after that Olympic performance he put on, everyone thinks he's like the superstar hockey player. He's like kind of a muck and grind player.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I see like a lot of like a Konechny in TJ Oshie. And like he is a net front guy, like can deflect the puck, can bury rebounds. He's tough as nails. He's didn't he have, I think his father passed away this past year too. He had some emotional stuff away from the rink.
Yeah.
So that could have been a distraction last year as well. Man, I 26 goals. I don't know. He'll definitely get by 20. 26 sounds like a lot for him, though. I don't know. This is a tough one.
Yeah, it is. I was going to mention, too, just about 2 hits per game. So for Bangers Leagues, again, you mentioned just a muck and grind type of player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's good for that, too.
I don't really know.
I struggle with the points total a little bit with Oshie. Bruce, what do you think about Oshie?
I'm kind of on the fence about him too. Just looking at some of his numbers here, so he has put up consistently like in the mid 20s for goals, 20, 25, 26. He had 33 in 16, 17, 26 in 15, 16. So, but he's had 60 points once. That was in 13, 14. He's never been over 60.
Mm-hmm. I will say one thing about Oshie, though, which is a major downgrade for him with Backstrom out. The two of them on that power play together, Backstrom's like little bumper pass to Oshie. Like, Oshie's probably a top 5 bumper guy as far as power plays go in the league. Like, I remember that playoff run. Like, he was money from the slot in the playoffs. I think he must have had like 4 or 5 goals that year in the run from that area. So, like, I think missing Backstrom is a massive, massive downgrade for him.
Yeah, just for the team in general, they're going to miss Backstrom.
So I'm gonna say under.
Okay.
And Bruce's argument helped me there too.
Yeah, I think, Bruce, you're leading that way. You're leading to the under.
Yeah, I'm leading to the under.
Okay. One player I'm interested in for this year is Dylan Strome. So last season, 48 points, 22 goals in 69 games played. He had 32 points in the final 39 games of the season, so he's playing at a 67-point pace. Part of the reason was his power play deployment and production. He was on pace for 26 goals, but he did shoot at a career-high 17.5%. Career highs on the power play, 16 power play points, 17 and a half minutes time on ice, lots of offensive zone starts. I don't know if he's going to get the same. Do you think he's going to play power play 1, Johnny, in Washington? I guess with Backstrom out, probably.
I am trying to think of this setup. So they had Backstrom on the half wall. Kuznetsov was down low. Carlson was on the blue line. Ovechkin in his office. Oshie in the bumper. He's not playing the half wall. I'm gonna check really quick. Actually, I'm gonna see where Daily Faceoff has him. Because I'm curious. It's actually funny too because I remember this summer. I think I found out a week after he signed that he signed in Washington. Someone posted a clip of him wearing a Capitals practice jersey. I was like, when did that happen?
Yeah.
It just must have been mid-July time when you're kind of not paying attention a little bit.
Sure.
So yeah, they actually Daily Faceoff right now has him in the center position with they don't have it umbrella or overload. They just have the 5-man unit, but they have Dylan Strome as a center on the first unit. So I could see that happening.
Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of I've got him at 21 goals and 55 points. I think he's got potential to outdo that if all goes well in the power play, but I also don't have super high expectations for Strome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It would be a career high in points for him if he did hit it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. Connor Brown came over in that trade. Center right wing eligible. He's not going in drafts. I've got him for 20 goals and 50 points. I think that's kind of what he is at this point in his career. He's a 20-goal guy, maybe 50 points if all goes well. But also, I think he had some opportunities in Ottawa that you know what? It looks like Daily Faceoff might have him in
first line, right wing.
Yeah. So, and I think left wing lock has him there too, right? So, I can see him playing on that top line, Kuznetsov and Ovechkin. If that's where he does, in fact, play for the whole season, he could potentially obliterate 20 goals and 50 points.
Yeah. No, I think that's a perfect prediction for him.
Yep.
Okay.
I have no comment. That is just
We'll go with that. Okay. Last player of the night, John Carlson. This one's probably not even that hard to predict, really. He's going right now, average in Yahoo 38.9. Last year, 71 points, 17 goals in 78 games played. 17 goals was a career high, but his team's even strength shooting percentage at 8.9% was his lowest since 2015-2016, so there's some room for positive regression there. I've got him at 15 goals and 71 points. Johnny, what do you think?
I love John Carlson.
Yeah.
He's also a local guy from around here. I grew up, one of my first World Junior memories was his goal in overtime. That was
yeah.
It was such an awesome moment for me. As a kid, that was first time seeing first time seeing the Americans win World Juniors for me as a kid. Yeah. So that was the actual. So just a little off topic, but the first time I started watching the World Juniors was 2009 year when Tavares was on. He was the captain of Canada.
Yeah.
I went to the Bell Cup in Ottawa and we went to a game and I didn't even know what the World Juniors was as a kid, which is crazy to think about, right? How big it is in Canada.
Yeah.
And I just remember, it used to be a tradition kind of when I was younger, watching the USA-Canada game on New Year's Eve, and that year USA went up 3-0 on Canada. I was like, there's so much hype on this kid Tavares. He hasn't done shit. Next shift, Tavares 2 goals and back in 2 minutes span. He's a nasty toe drag around the defenseman with no stick, top shelf, and then all this Jordan Eberle stuff. John Carlson is the hero. So I thought that was really cool. And I've since then I've just loved John Carlson's game. And I think he was almost not necessarily a trendsetter for the new age defenseman. But he was definitely one of those very few offensively minded defensemen, like an Erik Karlsson, like a Letang, it seems, in those years. And I don't see him slowing down ever, especially, with Ovechkin on the power play, if they can figure it out, last year they struggled, but there's no reason why John Carlson cannot get 70 points again. He is,
sure,
in my mind, one of the best offensive defensemen in the league.
And I agree with your take on him. Like maybe not a trend-setting defenseman, but he was kind of like that early new age defenseman, right? Like that.
Maybe he didn't start it, but he like followed up like a Carlson. And, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, he's not he wasn't like the trailblazer, I guess, but he was.
But that was kind of the start of that era where guys, smaller skilled defensemen started making an impact, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, hey Johnny, that does it for our fantasy preview for this week. So part 2 will be next week. Just a couple things here before we wrap. Ask the Hacks. We're still running that segment, guys. So if you have questions, send them in. We'll get you entered to win a free 1-year subscription to the Left Wing Lock iPhone app. So thank you to Mike and the guys at Left Wing Lock for that. And then, of course, our contest that we announced last week to help us celebrate 100 episodes, which is going to air in February. We're doing our Hacks holiday, so we're going to send a listener and a guest to Vegas to watch a Golden Knights game. 2 round-trip tickets to Vegas, 3-night accommodations at a hotel somewhere near T-Mobile Arena, and then, of course, that free 1-year subscription to the Left Wing Lock iPhone app. Go to the contest page, fantasyhockeyhacks.com/hacksholiday. Check it out. All the contest details are there on how you enter. The contestant is going to have to provide us with the 19-digit code to win, or the phrase. So this week's Hack the Code number is 22. So make note of that. And I think I'm actually going to update that on the webpage as well. So just Hacks Holiday, or fantasyhockeyhacks.com/Hacks Holiday. Go check it out. And then, Johnny, where can listeners find you on Twitter or your podcast? Just, plug whatever you want to.
Well, first things first. I've never been to Vegas, so if you can rig that little contest for me,
sure. Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
But yeah, you can find me on Twitter, JLazzy23, and our show is the Blue Crew Pod, so BLUECREW Pod. All over Twitter. Twitter's my favorite app in the world. I'm like a Twitter addict. It's like really bad, but like also amazing. But thank you guys, Dev and Bruce. Like this was so much fun, and I appreciate it. And I'm always happy to come on whenever you guys need a guest. So appreciate
awesome.
it.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it was great having you. We loved all your insight for sure. We'll talk some hockey again another time.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Okay, see you later.
Thank you. Night.
Should I actually dip or?